The huge space station hung in the darkness, its lights twinkling like a man-made star. Around it, dozens of Earth's best ships floated, ready for action. This was humanity's last stand against the alien threat. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of her ship, the ESS Thunderbolt. She looked out at the stars, her dark eyes scanning the empty space where the enemy would soon appear. Sarah was young for a captain, only 35, but she had proven herself in many battles. "Status report," she said, her voice calm but firm. Lieutenant Park, her second in command, answered quickly. "All systems are green, Captain. The crew is at battle stations. We're as ready as we'll ever be." Sarah nodded, a small smile on her face. "Good work, Park. Let's hope it's enough." She turned to look at her crew. They were the best of the best, chosen from all over Earth, but even they couldn't hide their fear. This battle would decide the fate of humanity. Sarah cleared her throat. It was time for a speech. "Listen up, everyone," she said, her voice carrying across the bridge. "I know you're scared. I am too. But remember why we're here. We're fighting for Earth, for our families, for everything we love." The crew turned to look at her, their eyes wide. "The aliens think they can just come here and take our home. They think we're weak, but they don't know humans. We faced tough times before, and we've always come out on top. That's what we do. We fight, we adapt, and we win." Sarah saw some of the fear leave her crew's eyes, replaced by determination. "Each of you is here because you're the best at what you do. I trust you with my life, and Earth trusts us with its future. So let's show these aliens what humans can do." A cheer went up from the crew. Sarah felt pride swell in her chest. These were her people, and they were ready. Suddenly, alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed across the bridge. "Captain," Lieutenant Park shouted, "we're picking up multiple signals. They're here." Sarah's heart raced, but her voice remained steady. "Battle stations, everyone. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill." The crew jumped into action, their earlier fear replaced by focused energy. Screens lit up all around the bridge, showing the approaching alien fleet. Sarah took a deep breath. This was it, the moment they had all been preparing for. "Weapons hot," she ordered. "Shields at maximum. Comms, alert the fleet. The enemy is here." As the first alien ships appeared in the distance, Sarah gripped the arms of her captain's chair. The fate of Earth rested on this battle, on her decisions in the next few hours. "Steady," she said, more to herself than to her crew. "Steady." The alien ships grew larger on the view screen. Strange shapes, all angles and curves that hurt the eye to look at. Nothing like the clean lines of Earth's ships. Sarah felt a moment of doubt. Could they really win against something so alien, so advanced? But then she remembered her own words. Humans adapt. Humans win. "All ships," she said into the fleet-wide comm. "This is Captain Chen. Stand ready. For Earth." A chorus of "For Earth" echoed back from every ship in the fleet. As the alien ships entered weapons range, Sarah allowed herself one last thought of home, of the blue planet they were all fighting to protect. Then she pushed all doubt aside. It was time to fight. "All ships," she said, her voice ringing with authority. "Open fire." And with that command, the Battle of the Vega Gulf began. The first shots of the battle lit up the darkness of space like silent fireworks. Captain Sarah Chen watched from the bridge of the ESS Thunderbolt as beams of energy crisscrossed between the human and alien fleets. "Direct hit on the lead alien ship," shouted Weapons Officer Rodriguez. A cheer went up from the crew, but Sarah knew better than to celebrate too early. "Stay focused," she ordered. "This fight's just getting started." As if to prove her point, a massive energy blast from one of the alien ships tore through a nearby human cruiser. The ship exploded in a ball of fire, quickly snuffed out by the vacuum of space. Sarah gritted her teeth. Evasive maneuvers. Don't let them get a lock on us. The Thunderbolt lurched to the side as Lieutenant Park skillfully piloted the ship through the chaos of battle. Sarah had to grip her chair to stay upright. "Captain," called Communications Officer Lee, we're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. Sarah's heart raced. This was the moment they had all been waiting for. First contact with an alien species, but not like this, not in the middle of a battle. Put it on screen, she ordered. The main view screen flickered to life, showing an image that made everyone on the bridge gasp. The alien was unlike anything they had imagined. It had multiple eyes that seemed to move independently, and its skin shimmered with colors that shouldn't exist. When it spoke, the sound was like grinding metal mixed with whale song. The ship's computer struggled to translate. Humans, the alien's voice crackled through the speakers. You are trespassing. This space belongs to the Zarkax Empire. Surrender, or be destroyed. Sarah stood up, her eyes blazing with determination. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Space Fleet. We do not recognize your claim to this space. We are here to defend our home and our rights. We will not surrender. The alien's eyes all focused on Sarah at once, sending a chill down her spine. Then you will die, it said simply before cutting the transmission. All ships, Sarah called out over the fleet-wide channel. You heard our visitors. They want to destroy us. Let's show them why that's a bad idea. The battle intensified. The alien ships moved in ways that defied physics, making them hard to hit. But humans were nothing if not adaptable. Their movements, Sarah muttered, watching the alien ships closely. There's a pattern. Lieutenant Park, can you predict where that big one will be in 30 seconds? Park's fingers flew over his console. I think so, Captain. Good. Rodriguez, I want every weapon we got aimed at that spot. Fire on my mark. The seconds ticked by agonizingly slowly. The alien ship zoomed across space in impossible arcs. Now, Sarah shouted. The Thunderbolt unleashed a barrage of missiles and energy beams. For a moment, it seemed like they would all miss. Then the alien ship appeared right in the middle of the attack. The resulting explosion was spectacular. The alien ship didn't just break apart. It seemed to fold in on itself before disappearing in a flash of light. A stunned silence fell over the bridge, broken only by Rodriguez's quiet, "Holy shit." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Good work, everyone. But don't get cocky. There are plenty more where that came from. As if on cue, 3 more alien ships took the place of their fallen comrade. The battle was far from over. All ships, Sarah called out. We found a weakness. They may be advanced, but their movements are predictable. Use that. As the human fleet adapted to this new strategy, the tide of the battle began to turn. It wasn't a victory, not yet, but for the first time since the aliens appeared, there was hope. Sarah looked out at the battle raging around her ship. They had made first contact, and it hadn't gone well. But humanity wasn't going down without a fight. All right, she said, her voice filled with determination. Let's show these Zarkax what humans are really made of. The battle raged on, a deadly dance of light and destruction against the backdrop of stars. Captain Sarah Chen's initial hope had faded as the true might of the Zarkax fleet became apparent. For every alien ship they managed to destroy, 2 more seemed to take its place. Hull integrity at 60% and falling, Captain, shouted Engineer Thompson over the comms. The Thunderbolt shuddered as another blast from a Zarkax ship struck home. Sarah gripped her chair, her knuckles white. Reroute power from non-essential systems. We need those shields. She looked at the tactical display, her mind racing. The human fleet was scattered, overwhelmed by the superior technology and numbers of the Zarkax. But Sarah refused to give up. There had to be a way. Suddenly, an idea struck her. It was risky, perhaps even crazy, but it might just work. Lieutenant Park, she called out, I need you to plot a course straight through the heart of the Zarkax fleet. Park turned to her, his eyes wide with disbelief. Straight through? But Captain, that's suicide. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Maybe, but it's also the last thing they'll expect. Sometimes the craziest plan is the best one. She opened a channel to the entire human fleet. All ships, this is Captain Chen. We're changing tactics. Form up on the Thunderbolt. We're going to punch right through their line." There was a moment of stunned silence. Then a chorus of acknowledgments came through. Sarah felt a surge of pride. Despite the odds, her fellow humans were ready to follow her into what might be certain death. "Weapons," she called out to Rodriguez. "I want every gun we have ready to fire. The moment we're in range, hit them with everything we've got." As the Thunderbolt and its makeshift squadron approached the Zarkak's fleet, Sarah held her breath. The alien ships, seemingly confused by this brazen move, began to reposition. "Now!" Sarah shouted. The human ships opened fire all at once, a barrage of missiles and energy beams unlike anything seen before in the battle. The front line of Zarkak's ships, caught off guard, erupted into explosions. "Push through," Sarah ordered, her voice ringing with determination. "Don't let up." The Thunderbolt shook violently as it plowed through the debris of destroyed alien ships. Alarms blared across the bridge, but Sarah ignored them, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. As they burst through the other side of the Zarkak's formation, Sarah saw her opportunity. All ships, hard to port, target their flagship. The human squadron, battered but unbroken, swung around as one. The Zarkak's flagship, a massive vessel that dwarfed even the largest human ships, loomed before them. "Fire at will," Sarah commanded. A storm of human weapons fire concentrated on the alien flagship. Its shields flickered and failed under the onslaught. Explosions blossomed across its hull. For a moment, the battle seemed to pause as both sides watched the Zarkak's flagship list to one side, venting atmosphere and debris. Then, with a flash that lit up space brighter than any star, the flagship exploded. A cheer went up across the human fleet. Sarah allowed herself a moment of triumph before focusing on the task at hand. "Good work, everyone," she said, her voice carrying across all channels. "But this fight isn't over yet. Let's press our advantage." As the human ships regrouped and pushed forward, Sarah saw something she hadn't seen since the battle began: fear in the movements of the Zarkak's ships. They were retreating, falling back in disarray without the guidance of their flagship. Sarah felt a surge of hope. They had done the impossible. Humanity, against all odds, was winning. "All ships," she called out, her voice filled with fierce pride. "Let's show these Zarkaks the true spirit of humanity. For Earth." The answering cry of "For Earth" echoed across space as the human fleet, united and unbroken, surged forward to claim their victory. The destruction of the Zarkak's flagship had thrown the alien fleet into disarray, but Captain Sarah Chen knew better than to underestimate their foe. The battle was far from over. "Status report," Sarah called out, her eyes scanning the tactical display. Lieutenant Park responded quickly. "The enemy fleet is regrouping, Captain. They're forming a new defensive line." Sarah nodded, her mind racing. They had the momentum, but the Zarkaks still outnumbered them. They needed to press their advantage before the aliens could recover. Suddenly, Communications Officer Lee shouted, "Captain, I'm picking up strange readings from the debris field of the Zarkak's flagship." Sarah turned to Lee, her interest piqued. "What kind of readings?" It's like nothing I've ever seen before," Lee said, his fingers flying over his console. "Some kind of energy signature. It's massive." An idea began to form in Sarah's mind. Could it be their power source? Engineer Thompson chimed in over the comms. "If it is, it's like nothing we've ever encountered. The energy readings are off the charts." Sarah's heart raced. This could be the key to turning the tide of the battle once and for all. But it was risky, very risky. She made her decision. "All ships, this is Captain Chen. We've detected an unknown energy source in the debris of the Zarkak's flagship. We're going to investigate and potentially appropriate it." There was a moment of stunned silence before the acknowledgments came flooding in. Everyone understood the stakes. "Helm, take us in," Sarah ordered. "Nice and easy." The Thunderbolt glided through the debris field, pieces of the destroyed Zarkak's flagship bouncing harmlessly off its shields. As they got closer to the energy source, the ship's sensors began to go haywire. "Captain," Thompson's voice came over the comms, filled with awe and a hint of fear. "If these readings are correct, this power source could fuel our entire fleet for years, maybe decades." Sarah's mind raced with the possibilities. With that kind of power, they could not only win this battle but potentially end the war. "Prepare for emergency transport," she ordered. "We're bringing that power source aboard." As the crew scrambled to follow her orders, Sarah opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships, cover the Thunderbolt. We're about to acquire a game-changing asset." The next few minutes were tense. Sarah watched as her crew worked frantically to secure the alien power source. The Zarkax, seemingly realizing what the humans were up to, launched a desperate attack to stop them. "Incoming!" Weapons Officer Rodriguez shouted. "Multiple Zarkax ships on an intercept course." Sarah gritted her teeth. "Hold them off. We need more time." The space around the Thunderbolt erupted into chaos as the human fleet engaged the oncoming Zarkax ships. Energy beams and missiles crisscrossed the void, creating a deadly light show. "Captain," Thompson's excited voice cut through the chaos. "We've got it. The power source is aboard." A cheer went up from the crew, but Sarah knew they weren't out of danger yet. "Get that power source integrated into our systems. Now." As Thompson and his team worked feverishly, Sarah turned her attention back to the battle. The human fleet was taking a beating, but they were holding the line. "How much longer?" Sarah asked, her voice tense. "Just a few more seconds," Thompson replied. "Almost there. Got it." Suddenly, the Thunderbolt hummed with newfound energy. Every system on the ship surged with power. "All weapons, fire at will," Sarah commanded. The Thunderbolt unleashed a barrage unlike anything seen before in the battle. Beams of energy, far more powerful than anything their weapons should have been capable of, lanced out and tore through the Zarkax ships like they were made of paper. "Send the specs to the rest of the fleet," Sarah ordered. "Let's level the playing field." As the other human ships began to integrate the alien power source, the tide of the battle shifted dramatically. The Zarkax, faced with weapons that could now match and even exceed their own, began to fall back. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. They had done it. They had found the turning point. "All ships," she called out, her voice filled with determination, "press the attack. Today, we take back our galaxy." As the human fleet surged forward, powered by their newfound advantage, Sarah knew that this was more than just a battle. It was the moment when humanity proved they could stand toe-to-toe with any force in the universe. The Battle of the Vega Gulf had reached its turning point, and humanity was poised for victory. The void of space was alive with energy as the newly empowered human fleet pressed their advantage against the Zarkax. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the ESS Thunderbolt, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. The tide had turned, but the Zarkax were far from defeated. "Status report," Sarah called out, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. Lieutenant Park responded quickly. "The Zarkax fleet is in retreat, Captain. They're falling back to a defensive position around their command ship." Sarah nodded, her mind already formulating a plan. This was their chance to end the battle once and for all. But it wouldn't be easy. The Zarkax command ship was a behemoth, easily 3 times the size of the largest human vessel. "All ships," Sarah broadcast to the fleet, "this is our moment. We've got them on the run, but we can't let up now. Form up on the Thunderbolt. We're taking down their command ship." Acknowledgments flooded in from across the fleet. Sarah felt a swell of pride. Despite everything they'd been through, the human spirit remained unbroken. As the human ships moved into formation, the Zarkax unleashed a barrage of fire. The space between the two fleets lit up with energy beams and explosions. "Evasive maneuvers," Sarah shouted. The Thunderbolt lurched to the side, narrowly avoiding a massive energy blast. "Return fire," Sarah ordered. "Concentrate all weapons on their forward shields." The human fleet responded as one, unleashing a storm of fire against the Zarkax command ship. Its shields flickered under the assault, but held. "It's not enough. Weapons Officer Rodriguez reported, frustration evident in his voice. Their shields are too strong. Sarah gritted her teeth. They needed something more, something unexpected. Her eyes fell on the readout for their newly acquired power source, and an idea struck her. Thompson, she called to her chief engineer, can we overload the alien power source? Create a focused energy pulse. There was a moment of stunned silence before Thompson replied, It's possible, Captain, but extremely risky. We could blow ourselves up in the process. Sarah nodded grimly. Understood. Do it. As Thompson and his team worked frantically to modify the power source, Sarah opened a channel to the fleet. All ships, fall back to a safe distance. The Thunderbolt is going to attempt a special maneuver. She could almost feel the confusion and concern from her fellow captains, but they complied without question. Trust had been built in the heat of battle. Power source is ready, Captain, Thompson reported, but we'll only get one shot at this. Sarah took a deep breath. This was it, the moment that would decide the fate of the battle, and perhaps the war itself. Helm, take us in, she ordered. Full speed. The Thunderbolt surged forward, streaking towards the massive Zarkax command ship. Energy blasts rocked the human vessel, but Sarah held firm. Steady, she said, more to herself than her crew. Steady. As they closed in on the command ship, its immense size filled their view screen. Sarah could see the individual weapon emplacements, the strange alien architecture. It was terrifying and awe-inspiring at the same time. Now, Sarah shouted. Thompson triggered the overloaded power source. For a split second, nothing happened. Then a pulse of pure energy erupted from the Thunderbolt, so bright it was painful to look at even through the filtered view screen. The pulse struck the Zarkax command ship dead center. Its shields flared brightly, trying to repel the massive energy surge. For a moment, it seemed like they might hold. Then, with a silent flash that lit up the battlefield brighter than a supernova, the shields collapsed. The energy pulse continued on, tearing through the command ship's hull like it was made of paper. The bridge of the Thunderbolt erupted in cheers as the Zarkax command ship began to break apart. Sarah allowed herself a small smile of triumph, but their celebration was cut short as alarms began blaring across the bridge. Captain, Thompson's panicked voice came over the comms. The power source is overloading. We can't shut it down. Sarah's mind raced. They had won the battle, but at what cost? All hands, abandon ship, she ordered, her voice calm despite the dire situation. Get to the escape pods. As her crew scrambled to evacuate, Sarah remained on the bridge, coordinating the exodus. She wouldn't leave until she was sure everyone else was safe. The Thunderbolt shuddered around her, systems failing as the overloaded power source threatened to tear the ship apart. But even in the face of possible destruction, Sarah felt a sense of pride. They had done it. Against all odds, humanity had stood against the Zarkax and emerged victorious. Whatever happened next, the Battle of the Vega Gulf would go down in history as the day humanity proved its worth among the stars. The ESS Thunderbolt shuddered and groaned, its systems failing as the overloaded alien power source threatened to tear it apart. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, her eyes darting between the evacuation progress and the tactical display showing the remnants of the Zarkax fleet retreating into deep space. Final evacuation report, Sarah demanded, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Lieutenant Park, who had refused to leave his captain's side, quickly responded, All crew accounted for in escape pods, Captain, except for us. Sarah nodded, a mix of relief and determination on her face. Launch all pods. We'll take the last one. As the escape pods streaked away from the dying Thunderbolt, Sarah took one last look at the bridge that had been her home for so long. Then, with a deep breath, she and Park made their way to the final escape pod. Just as they strapped themselves in, a violent tremor shook the ship. We're out of time, Sarah said grimly. Launch. Their pod shot out into space just as the Thunderbolt erupted in a spectacular explosion. The shockwave caught their small craft, sending it tumbling end over end. When the pod finally stabilized, Sarah looked out the small viewport. The battlefield was littered with debris from both human and Zarkax ships. But beyond that, she could see the stars, the same stars that humanity had dreamed of reaching for centuries. "We did it," Park said softly, a note of awe in his voice. "We actually did it." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "We did, but the war isn't over yet." As if in response to her words, a transmission came through on their emergency channel. It was Admiral Zhao, the commander of the human fleet. "Captain Chen," the admiral's voice crackled through the speaker. "Do you read me?" Loud and clear, Admiral. Sarah responded, "Status report." "The Zarkax fleet is in full retreat," Admiral Zhao reported, unable to keep the excitement out of his voice. "We've won the Battle of Vega Gulf." A cheer went up from the other escape pods, their occupants listening in on the transmission. Sarah felt a surge of pride and relief wash over her. "Rescue ships are on their way," the admiral continued. "You and your crew will be picked up shortly. And Captain, well done. The Thunderbolt's sacrifice won't be forgotten." As they waited for rescue, Sarah's mind raced with the implications of their victory. They had proven that humanity could stand against even the most advanced alien civilizations. But at what cost? Hours later, as the rescue ships arrived and began collecting the escape pods, Sarah stood in the observation deck of the ESS Horizon, watching as the last remnants of her beloved Thunderbolt drifted in space. Admiral Zhao approached her, his face a mix of joy and solemnity. "Captain Chen, your actions today have changed the course of this war, perhaps even the course of human history." Sarah nodded, her eyes still fixed on the debris field. "What happens now, Admiral?" "Now?" Zhao said, a hint of a smile on his face. "Now we take the fight to them. The data we collected on their technology during this battle will be invaluable. We'll reverse engineer what we can, improve our ships, our weapons." He paused, turning to look out at the stars alongside Sarah. "But more importantly, we've shown the galaxy that humanity is a force to be reckoned with. Other alien races who've been watching this conflict might think twice about siding with the Zarkax now." Sarah finally turned to face the admiral. "And what about peace? Is there any hope for that?" Zhao's expression softened. "There's always hope, Captain. This victory might just bring the Zarkax to the negotiating table. And if it does, we'll be negotiating from a position of strength." As if to punctuate his words, a group of human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel nearby, their hulls gleaming in the starlight. They were reinforcements, arrived too late for the battle, but a testament to humanity's determination. Sarah felt a renewed sense of purpose wash over her. Yes, they had lost ships and good people in this battle, but they had gained so much more: knowledge, confidence, and a fighting chance for the future. "Well then, Admiral," Sarah said, straightening her posture and squaring her shoulders, "I guess we have work to do." As they turned to leave the observation deck, Sarah took one last look at the stars. The Battle of Vega Gulf was over, but humanity's journey among the stars was just beginning. And for the first time since the war started, Sarah felt something she hadn't dared to feel in a long time: hope. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity had earned its place among the stars, and they were here to stay.